the thing with hockey is it's so multifaceted. Like there's so many moving parts to it. And for young kids coming up, even for like I remember in junior, I didn't know a lot of this stuff just because no one had ever laid out the connections for me. So I think like my thing is now, I guess what I see my job as being, like we've talked about before, what you think like you want to make people better and whatever. And I think that I feel the same way, but now like how do you do that? It's like how can I translate what I know now that I've been through it and have experience doing it and have studied it? How can I translate that message to the people that need it so that I can make them better? That's kind of the question. And that's kind of like the question as a parent. That's kind of the question as a coach for whatever. Anyone who's in a teaching role of any sort, that's kind of what you need to be asking yourself as a general question. So for me, I did this exercise with the kids today. I was actually more for myself than for them, honestly, but I think it was still helpful for them. So these were some of the students in the grade school at the academy, and they had just done these progress reports about how they feel their school is going and where they feel like they've improved. And so I wanted to do it as a group and have each of them answer. Like I had their papers to look at, but I wanted them to tell me. One, because I want other kids to hear what other kids are struggling with. And two, I want them to see the overlap of who's struggling with what. So that's why I thought it was like kind of a good exercise. But then my last piece of it was I wanted to show them like why what they're learning and where they are getting better is actually useful. And I tried to relate it to hockey because that's what makes them care. So
So to back up, this was they brought in a paper
they did it with their teacher, like a
with their
progress
teacher,
report.
but you asked them to bring it in.
The teacher gave them to me to look at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So they sat and did like a one-on-one with the teacher. The teacher filled out the paper, and then the teacher gave me the papers to just review like kind of where the kids are at. So I sat with all the kids this morning, and I was having them recount like, okay, what do you feel like you've improved on, and how did you improve on it? So each kid went kid by kid, and they were all saying skills. Like one of them was grammar, one of them was math, one of them was writing, whatever, one after the other. So I had them tell me what it was, why they felt like they improved on it, and then tried to get them to point out how it was useful in a way that they care about. So for writing, for example, I was explaining how writing's basically thinking. Like if you can't put a sentence on a piece of paper that makes sense, that means your brain is not generating a sentence that makes sense. You know, so you need to tighten that up. Presenting in front of the class was another one. Where is that useful? If I do an interview, yeah, when might you do an interview with a hockey team? That's actually important. Another kid with math, where is that useful? I used the example you gave about contracts. If you get paid X number of dollars, you want to know what to do with that. You know, that's actually important. And it's tailoring it so that they see the details that they're learning in school can be applied somewhere else. And my point of bringing up that piece of it, in addition to what you just finished saying, is translating this message to them. My strategy is just keep hammering them with details, 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 whether it's on the ice, off the ice. And some kids won't be reachable. Like some kids just will never get it. But a lot of kids, it just takes getting them to make the connection, you know? So like for some of them, when I was doing this exercise in the class today, I was like, so like, how does math relate to hockey? Like, why would that be important? You know? And they say, you know, angles and stuff on the ice. That was like their first thing. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's cool. Let's try to,
Trigonometry.
yeah. I was like, let's try to get a better answer. Like, what's a better answer? And they would be like, well, I don't know, like counting stats or like these kinds of things. And none of it was a tangible thing. And I was like, well, what about when you get your first paycheck or your signing bonus? And now it's like, oh, well, what about it? You know, and they want to hear. And it's like, yeah, this actually relates to that, you know, and they can, okay, now I can see that the detail of math class that I need to learn down the road could end up being useful. And if that makes them care 1% more in math class, like good, we did the right thing. If on the ice you're explaining to them, get inside the dots to shoot, and you can say, or get within 7 feet of the net because Hyman did it, and look at all the good things that have happened with him. It's like now they can say, oh, okay, and you're plugging it in. You know, you're putting the piece together for them that maybe they wouldn't have, and that's the whole job of the coach. That's why it's important to say the why and explain the reason behind things, and all of this stuff has to be there. Otherwise, the kids don't know. So it's one thing to say, you know, the details are important and all this, but you as the person who knows better, you have to be the connection maker for them. You know, so that's kind of the just when we're talking about details, whether it's on the ice, off the ice, that's the role that you should be playing with the kids. You know.
Yeah. So and you can like the drill this morning, you could teach the how, the why, and the what, and they can know what to do. But if they don't aren't willing to do it, then that's a whole different issue, and that's on them. But that's where we try to help.
Yeah,
And
and that happens.
that's my sentence I use sometimes is that to know and not to do is not to know. Because if you knew what to do, if you knew, I forget how it goes now. But to know and not to do is not to know. Just simply means you know what to do. You're not willing to do it or not do it. That means you actually still don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And
So
yeah, and you can see that.
that's another piece of teaching that is important to teach kids is to the why and try to build a desire to do it. And then some kids will never do it. And that's what separates guys from moving on and etc.
Yeah, I was on the ice last night, and I had a U11 and a U13 group. So, and they're all travel, so they're fine in terms of their ability as a baseline. But I'm paying very close attention to how much are they actually listening. I'm paying very close attention to that, because the other part of where you could just be so frustrated as a coach or a teacher or what a parent, whatever, is just trying to get kids to care about something they just don't care about, you know, and tailoring what you're doing to make it age appropriate. And I'm finding like increasingly the it's not that they don't listen, it's that the attention span is not there. So they're only interested for so long. And so when you're trying to translate some of these messages to younger kids, I still think it's important to do that. But they're only going to listen for so long before they check out. As they get older, they'll listen for longer, you know? So I think for me, what I try to do is still plug in some of that stuff, but you can't let yourself get bogged down and frustrated by the fact that the kid in line is turned around facing the other way, or they're whacking each other with their sticks or whatever. It's like you just can't let that be a deterrent, because that is built into the system. Like that's what's going to happen. So I think the strategy, the younger the kids are with this kind of teaching on the detail side, is just short and sweet.
Yeah, and one
Short and
bite at a
sweet.
time.
Yeah, just a little bit. So we're doing like 15 minutes of skating, half that time in shooting, half that time in stick handling, and then we're playing. And that's how we structure it with these young groups. And it's beautiful. They're all so excited to play, and I can dangle that with them and say, hey, pay attention for 15, and then we're going to a game. Or pay attention for 5 more minutes and we're going to a game. Or this will work when you go play the game in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So I think that piece of it is
And that's
important
the
too.
nice way of doing it. Like that's the nice way. Because I was just having these thoughts this morning. Um, it's I know when I used to play, it wasn't the nice way. It was just do it. If you don't do it, get off the ice. And I was more as a coach. I still lean that way, but I've been probably with the younger guys. I've been more tolerant, or maybe that's not the right word. It might be more um, accepting or working around it, or I just don't feel like losing my shit every 5 minutes. Maybe that's what it is. But I almost would I like the way the dangle the thing in front of them, because like a lot of people say kids have changed, like they have in a lot of ways. But I also wouldn't mind it to be a little bit more military style. You know what I mean? Like what we deal with in our that situation, when if you have a team, if it's just a team, I think you can be a little bit more. Um, I mean, you always have to show the why, but I think you could have, if it's just a team, you could treat it a little bit more military style. I use that. That's an extreme word, but more. I say you do.
Well, sorry, can I
Yeah.
cut you off for a second? So as an example, because I do this as well, and
Mm.
this is where, sorry to cut you off.
No, no, it's all good,
I'm gonna
man.
go on a tear for a second. This is where I think the experience of actually coaching is important, because you can gauge when to use which tool. So for these like U11, U13 kids I have on Tuesdays, it's a mix of kids at various levels of travel,
Sorry,
right?
which
The
on the
kids,
ice?
yeah,
Okay,
on
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
ice,
yeah, yeah.
they're like military style with them. They just don't care that much. So I can be as military as I want, and then it's just not fun, and they don't want to come out and learn. With my older guys, it's straight military style. So like for them, like I have them send me a picture of the dressing room after the game to make sure it's clean. When we're eating in the lobby, I have them send me a picture of the lobby after to make sure it's clean. The bus, same thing. Show me that you guys are getting your shit done so that nobody thinks you're a goof. And that makes sense and works at that level, and they respond to that. But the experience piece, like again, yesterday we are doing some skating and there's a kid that's doing one of the drills that he just is not comfortable on his blades yet. So he can't get the drill I'm showing. He just can't. He's not there yet. So he kind of almost half does it on one of his legs and not the other. If I can't stop him, I can't stop him and take an extra 5 minutes to show him properly because he still won't do it properly. He needs time to still be on his
Yeah,
edges.
he's got to figure it out.
And that's where the experience, if I try to go military style on that kid, that's a loss. You know what I mean? So my point of interrupting you was that experience part will help you better understand when to use which tool because you can see it. You know, you've seen what works and what doesn't in situation X or whatever, you know? So
Yeah, yeah. So all my point was is that there's like I'm just looking at our the business model and stuff. It's when you're charging money for people to come out and skate, and it's very often like that style doesn't, it can work, but they're also paying. So like take the academy for example, if they're there every day and they're paying money, it's like the academy has to be like all day like that, or like a mix of it, and it's like it can get old fast on the very, this is how it's got to be here at 9 o'clock, blah blah blah. That's, it's a different ball game.
yeah, you got to find the
Well,
balance
I don't know.
with the
I don't
group
know if
for
I
sure.
said that very clearly, but there's, anyways.
No, I agree though. It's you have to find, and year to year it could be different too. Like even with the academy, like if the rules are this,
Well,
and this is my group,
it comes back to what I said is like when you have so much ice, like you have so much ice, I don't think it can be like that every day
no,
because it's
right.
like maybe they've had so much ice over the year. Maybe right now it's just like I'm here because I have to be here.
And the
You know,
reason why is the like, what is the reason that you know that is because you've seen it for how many years now? You know, that's why you know that. Because on paper, it's like, okay, if I do this, this will work. You know what I mean?